My name is Juiced. I am the founder of Juiced Up Genetix. It's not a long story, but it's like I was 12 and I was like smoking weed, and I had a bunch of seeds. I found, because back then it was like bush, like you had the Reggie, the fucking Mexican brickweed, and I had a bunch of seeds and fucking, my mom had like a seed starter tray. Mind you, this is like 1998, so like my mom had like a seed starter tray with all the slots and a bag of Miracle-Gro potting soil and a bunch of like vegetable seeds too. So I took tomatoes, chives, and my weed seeds, and I planted them all in this, seed starter tray, and I hung up two fluorescent tubes. They're like 2.5 foot, like T5 tubes under my bed, because my bed was like 2 feet off the ground. And I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know how to grow a plant. I didn't know what I was doing. But I just started like spraying them down with water, and I put them under the light. I didn't know that like light cycles were a thing. I didn't know any of that. And I just kind of slid it under my bed, and at night, you could see like the fucking like illumination coming out from under the bed, and like within a few days the seeds popped. Probably like 2 weeks later, my mom came in and was like, "What the fuck is under your bed?" And I was like, "Oh, they're tomatoes and chives." And my mom was like, "Those are not tomatoes, dude. Those are not fucking tomatoes. Like, these are tomatoes, but these are not." She's like, "You're growing pot in my fucking house." And back then it was super taboo. You couldn't grow. Like, that wasn't a thing. Like, and if you did grow, you didn't talk about it, because like federal prison was a real thing, So being 12 and not really knowing like the severity of it, I managed to hang up the lights in my closet and transplanted the ones that weren't dying into a little bit bigger pots. And my mom actually put me on to light cycles to make things flower and fruit and stuff like that. And I was 12. I grew my first couple plants. They turned out like shit, but that's what got me into it. It was like, damn, I created this. These were at my hands. Like, this was, I did this, and I haven't looked back since. Like, just been running with it. I think it's preference. It's setup based, right? So like, if you're wanting to go the purest way, or like you want to do the the more, I guess you say, the more like hands-on type of way, amending your own soils and doing these things, I guess the more natural way, right? I would say go with organic, and depending on your setup, if that works in your setup, then go with organic. But if you're trying to maximize yields, or you're able to have a little bit larger setup, or you just want to grow synthetically, then grow synthetic. I don't think either is better than the other. They both have their place, but they also both bring their positives and negatives. So I actually grow both. I do both. So can't say which one's my favorite though.
Or environment or genetics, which is more important?
Environment for sure. You could have the best genetics ever, but if your environment's fucked up, your plants aren't going to grow properly. You could have the worst genetics, and even in a perfect environment, you might be able to bring something out of them, but without that environment being dialed, you're not going to do shit. It comes down to, like, if you have both, then you're good, but I would say like first is environment, then would be genetics, then it would be your SOPs, and your IPM, like those three things. But if you were to get into like technicalities and shit, like lighting and all this shit, then there would just be too many things to name. So I'd say environment, then genetics.
Do you take advice from other growers?
Yes, all the time. All the time.
Why is that so important?
So with other growers, right, like I don't know everything, you know what I mean? Like I know a lot, you know, I know a little bit about a lot of shit, and I know a lot about a little bit, you know? So I'm busy, like I help people every day with plants. Like my DMs are flooded with questions, you know, and issues and things like that. So when I speak to like my boys that grow, or even people I don't even know that I'm just linking with on Instagram or, you know, Cannabuzz or whatever social media I'm on, when I start like talking to these people, you know, there's always something that I can learn from another grower, right? Just, I might not be able to implement it in my own grow, but at least I have it up here. And if I'm helping somebody, or I come across a situation where maybe this person could implement it, like, then I'm able to forward that suggestion, like, hey, you know, my boy did this and this was his results. You know, you might want to try it. It might work for you, you know? Without spreading the knowledge and growers connecting and bouncing ideas back like off of each other all the time, I feel like we'll remain stagnant, you know, because we're not going to learn everything on our own. We need the other people to give us a different perspective on things, you know. How do you do it? Like, I've implemented a lot of things from other growers, and then like take the meat and leave the bones. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't come up with that I do, you know, and that's from like other growers. So yeah, I think it's important. It's how the community works, you know. Oh man, my favorite grower. Besides me, damn, that is a hard question. Fuck. I would say probably cultivated or fuck, there's so many, bro. I don't know, man.
Give me like your top 5.
Top 5? Yeah, I'll give you my top 5.
Mount Rushmore. Give me Mount Rushmore.
All right. So cultivated. Rambo's cousin, which is First Blood Genetics. He's also a breeder. Exotic Genetics, just because like even though he's a breeder, like he's still a grower, and what he grows is fucking fire. So for sure, Exotic Genetics. Grow more, stress less. And probably Lost Leaf Matt from Lost Leaf. He's because he's super like knowledgeable, and he's got that the scientific aspect of it down, and that's what I kind of focus on. No. It starts with science. That's like that's what it boils down to. Is it boils down to science. But as you, I can't speak for anybody else. But as I work with cuts, or as I'm doing pheno hunts, or as I'm pairing, you know, these breeding projects or whatever, I get a feel for what these plants want. You know, so there is intuition for sure. And also some of it is like, it's repetition, so it's like some cuts you just like I just learned some of my cuts so well that, you know, I go in there and it's like I'm like on like autopilot, you know. I do what I have to do and I get it done. But as far as like, I would say the most intuitive part of growing is knowing how much water or feed to give. That is by feel. It's also scientific as well, like measurements and doing those things. But once I learn that media, or once I learn that cut, I know it's like an intuitive feeling in my gut. Okay, stop. Like, it needs this much. This is how much I put in, right? It's not like, well, if I add this much and this much, then it'll equal this. Like, it gets this much, and I'll get these results. Like, but it's all typically by feel at first, you know, because you can't just be like, oh, well, the pot is 1.5 gallons, so and it's filled with cocoa, so it's gonna take, you know, whatever. That is a thing for full saturation and runoff and shit like that. But at the end of the day, the intuition is what keeps me, like, I know if my stomach tells me or my brain tells me, like, don't pull that leaf, or don't lollipop or skirt the plant too high, like, then I go with that. But as far as like basic grow information, it's science. Oh man, the most difficult part. Keeping a stable environment and achieving consistent results is for me. The stable environment, it's like I have my shit so dialed that, like, when it comes to CO2 and my PPFD at the canopy, I have it dialed to the point where, like, I can drop my humidity, you know, 1% if I want to. I can raise or increase my temperatures 0.5 degree. But I'd say, but that's for the rooms. When it comes to like my personal small batch grow, which is the one I usually post, like in the larger tents and stuff like that, I'd say it would be environment. That's probably the most difficult part. That and dealing with so many fucking plants. That is not, people think that they're gonna set up a room and they're just gonna throw 8 lights in there and they're just gonna crush. And that is not how it works. It is taking on more than somebody can handle. Like, if I take on more than I can handle, that becomes difficult. So knowing when to, because it's like an addiction, I have to pop seeds, you know, like I need to run these, like, so it's knowing when to be like, all right, chill, bro. You know, you got fucking 330 plants in here, like, you need to chill. Like, you cannot fit anymore. So yeah, I'd say environment and knowing when to be like, all right, you have enough, like, wait till the next run. So yeah, those two things.
Who do you think rolls the best blunts in America?
In America, probably Snoop Dogg. But I also saw in an interview that he said that he pays somebody to roll his blunts for him. So Snoop Dogg's blunt roller would be the best blunt roller in America, at least in my eyes. That's what I think it would be.
Definitely got the most practice.
Yeah. I think that as like a community, whether you're a grower, a consumer, a vendor, whatever it may be, anybody in the community, but specifically geared towards the growers, I think the egos need to be dropped. And I think that we need to stop looking at it as a competition, because it's not a competition. Even when you're in a competition, it is not a competition. Like, no more egos, you know, no more looking at other growers as if, oh, you're stepping on my toes, or, you know, it's like people look at it like it's drug turf. Like, you know, you're coming in here and you're coming on my block, like, I ain't going for it, you know, and that's just not what it is. There's too much supply and not enough demand, right? So having growers like fighting over sales and having growers looking at another grower as competition when this individual lives here and this individual lives here. Like, what the fuck, bro? If you're in Virginia Beach and I'm in DC, I'm not your competition, you know? And stop, I feel like the community needs to stop hating on each other. It's getting to the point where the cannabis community is about like peace, love, like smoking weed and just vibing out, right? Like having good times with good people, creating memories that last, right? Building relationships. And when we hate on each other and when we have these egos and we look at everybody else as, you know, looking down on new growers needs to stop, you know, because at one point we were all new growers. At one point we didn't know shit, you know. So looking down on new growers or making fun of people who are asking like dumb questions or, you know, basic simple information. Sometimes, like, yes, you can Google this stuff, but there are people who don't learn by reading. There are people who might learn by somebody else telling them the answer, you know, just like some people learn hands-on, shit like that. So, I mean, stop bashing the new growers, you know, help them out, you know, fucking support local. Always support local. If you got a homie that's growing, support him. If his weed's not that good, bro, like tell him in a constructive way that he can do better, but still support him, you know. Yeah, I think we just need to lift each other up more because there's a lot of like more so kicking while we're down type stuff happening, and that stuff's it's just not conducive to live like a grower, a cannabis enthusiast lifestyle, you know? So, yeah, that needs to stop.